Just doing your thing. I gotta stop talking like an idiot. All right, I'm gonna finish this and then we're gonna get to the fryer.
Really? Don't lower them both in.
Hey guys, it's Vanessa and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another What's for Dinner video for you where I show you what I feed my blended family of 6 from Monday to Friday. So come along, because Monday night was homemade chicken tenders and a little bit of a fail, but just keep watching. We're gonna need. I have some flour here that I just I just added some black pepper and some of the no salt seasoning. You could add salt, Lowry's, whatever you want to add. I just like using that one, and it's not because I'm trying to be low sodium or healthy, it's just because we like the taste. So mix it up. The key to making any good breading is to make sure that your flour, breadcrumbs, whatever you're using, are well coated. Do you hear my puppy crying? He probably has to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and got that all mixed in. I can see lots of happy things happening. I have 1 egg that you're gonna need. You're just gonna wanna mix that up. You're gonna use that to help with your dredging. You can add a little bit of milk or water if you want, just to thin it out. We'll do that here. And by a little bit of water, I mean like a teaspoon. Okay. And just like that. You can season your egg too if you wanted. And here I have all of my little tenders or cutlets, whatever you want to call them. And we're gonna go ahead and start dredging. Voila. So the first thing I always say, you have something wet, you need to dry it off or nothing's gonna stick to it. Because I know people get a little overwhelmed with how to batter something. Shake off the excess flour. Now the egg will stick. And the reason we're doing this double, oh gross. The reason we're doing the double dredge is to get a crispier coating. So now you have the egg, so now you're really gonna get your flour to stick to it. This is going to create a nice crispy coating. Shake off the excess and then just do the rest. I just wanted to show you guys really quick. If you want to speed up your process, I just went ahead and threw all of my chicken fingers in there, and then I can go ahead and speed through this process a little bit quicker because this part's not as important. So just get them all kind of coated before you put them in the egg. You can leave them in there if you have a big enough container, or you can set them aside. So the sky is falling down. Just doing your thing. I gotta stop talking like an idiot. What I want, I don't want it. Do what I like, I don't like it. My life is a mess. Screaming with boredom. I don't feel nothing. So here you go. This is what they should look like. Sorry for horrible lighting in my kitchen. Let's try and turn towards the stove here. A little bit better. All right, there you go. That's what they should look like. Let's go to the deep fryer. I have my deep fryer set to 375. This is the Krups, or C-R-U-P-S. I got it from Amazon. I've shown you guys before. Don't worry, this is just after 1 frying from those fries I made the other day. It's the same oil. I usually use it 2 or 3 times. Sorry, we're not that fancy. We can keep buying oil. And I showed you guys the baskets that come with it. So these are it here. It comes with these 2 or 1 larger one. I'm gonna go ahead and use 2 of them so that I can kind of do it in bigger batches, but they won't all clump together, if that makes any sense. So this honestly takes a good 15-20 minutes to heat up. So we're gonna let this heat up. When it's ready, we're gonna go ahead and dump in our chicken strips. What are we making? All right.
So, hi, this is editing me. I have to disclose, I haven't deep fried something like this in a while. So I just willy-nilly decided to throw them in the basket and throw them in the deep fryer. I know better than that. Lower your chicken fingers or whatever you're deep frying. Frozen food doesn't seem to be as specific. It doesn't stick to the basket as bad, like if you're doing lots of sticks or something like that. But these, anytime I'm doing like chicken parmesan or anything like that, which I normally do in a deep skillet. So it's been a while since I used a deep fryer. Anyway, going back. Basically lower it into the oil gently and kind of let it start to float or kind of submerge on its own. I put them all in the basket, laid it right in. It was like glue. It just stuck to the bottom of the basket. So most of my chicken fingers on the bottom didn't have any breading, which in turn dried them out because there wasn't anything really protecting them from the oil when they were cooking. So 75% of them turned out really good and we still ate them, but just be aware when you're deep frying, don't put it directly in the basket and lower your basket in. Go ahead and drop it slowly into the oil and give it a chance to kind of float on its own, and then you can use the basket to lift them out and shake around. Anyway, I still wanted to show you guys this video because I am not a perfect cook and I mess up, and here you go. But it was still edible and we were still really happy. So let's get back to the video.
All right, so our oil is ready. I'm gonna go ahead and take the lid off. That's one thing I like about this deep fryer. It has the lid, so it kind of stops any spray. Here's our chicken fingers all ready. I went ahead and put them in the fridge for 5 minutes just to let them kind of set up a little bit. And let the coating adhere so it doesn't fall away. Now I am gonna get a fork just to put them into my bins here. So I have 8, I'm gonna try and do 4 at a time.
I can't even watch this again. Like watching me do this, it's like I was sleeping.
So I'm gonna go ahead and put 1, 2.
I had a long day that day. I had an hour and a half long doctor's appointment. I was going to kibosh making supper all together that night, and I got home and I said, no, I really want to make these chicken tenders. I've been looking forward to them all day.
I'm gonna lower them both in.
Really? Don't lower them both in.
You notice how I don't just drop it?
It's really hard to watch this. All right, you guys get to do this with me now. Let's go.
Kind of letting it adjust, give it a little bit of a wiggle. Nothing's shaking in there. I'm not going to put the lid on until I see what's going on, until I let the heat get back up, because as soon as you put it in, you've dropped the heat of your oil, so give it a second. See how handy the lid is? Now these are going to cook for 8 minutes, maybe 10. Just keep an eye on the darkness. This one's really sticking.
Yes, lady, they are all sticking. This is your future self telling you this. Okay, carry on. You won't see me anymore. I'm done. I'm just very disappointed in myself.
So, same on this one. We got one sticking, being a bugger. All right, guys, so basically the lesson here when you're deep frying in oil like this is to drop it slowly into the oil so you don't have any issues like I had. Also, I cooked them for about 8 to 10 minutes. It really only took 6 to 7. Really gauge the size of your chicken and account for that. The parts of my chicken that were a little bigger turned out juicy and tender, and the ends were a little bit dry. But we made do, we munched on it, and I'd be lying if I didn't say we ended up getting a pizza this night because we were a little bit hungry. All right, guys, so here they are. They're very nice and moist in the middle. These actually took only about 7 minutes because they were pretty thin. And you'll see parts that had coating come off. They look like dried. It's basically deep fried chicken without that. So be cautious of that. Maybe breadcrumbs. I don't usually have as much problem with breadcrumbs sticking as I do with the flour alone. And I just used flour. So whatever. I'm not a deep fry connoisseur. I just know what I like. But I know this one is super soft and light and fluffy. I already had a bite of one. It's very good. So if you guys are interested in making your own chicken tenders at home, it is very easy. I'm going to try the air fryer next just to see how it goes. I serve it up with some plum sauce or cherry sauce. We're going to go ahead and dig into these. It's been kind of a peckish kind of night. We're having a weird Monday night. It's just Belle and Jamie and I. But guys, this was simple. This was supper for Monday night. And pizza. Now for Tuesday, we had honey garlic spare ribs and baked rice in the oven. If you want to see how it goes together, keep watching. So first thing, let's take a look at what we need for the ribs. First thing, obviously, are ribs. I bought these on sale in a grocery haul. I'll link it down below if you guys want to check it out. They were dirt cheap, like $12 for both packs of these ribs. So I went ahead and stocked up because I knew I wanted them for my meal plan. I just use pre-jarred honey garlic sauce. I also like the medium garlic from VH. I don't know, it's a little bit of a stronger taste. So I mixed 4 bottles of these in my crock pot with those. It's that simple, guys. First thing is to get them boiling. So here I'm just kind of showing you, you can tell where the bones are. I'm going to cut them just kind of like you would get if you ordered Chinese food. That's how we like to eat them. So I'm going to go ahead and slice in between the bones and just make them into nice handheld bite-sized pieces.
first kiss, we were so damn high, we could touch the sky. Drunk on love.
Now, I'm sure you heard me say I have to boil the meat. You're right. You heard it right. I always grew up eating this way. Mom always boiled a lot of the meat before she cooked it. And then I questioned it because I know there's a lot of controversy and people won't agree, or they think you're going to kill the flavor or you're going to cook it to death. But anyway, ultimately, when you boil certain tough cuts of meat like beef or pork or brisket or whatever, it can help break down the connective tissues or the fibers in the meat, which will help make it a little bit more tender. So I do plan on putting this in the slow cooker for a good 8 hours. So between the boiling and the slow cooker, trust me guys, these turn out epic every time. All right, these are done. They've been boiling for about 1 hour on medium heat. And now I'm going to dump them into the crock pot and pour the 4 bottles right over top of them. Go ahead and give them a good stir. Make sure everything is coated and turn it on to low for anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. Honestly, I think mine were done at low at about 5 or 6 hours. So I guess it just depends on your crock pot, but low and slow is best. All right, so now I'm going to share with you my recipe for chicken oven-baked rice casserole. You can see this recipe book I've had since 2004. I've kind of accumulated things that have been passed down, but it's a very basic recipe if you guys want to grab a screenshot of this. And I just use kind of a smaller roast pan. This is just what I've been using for years. I've had this pan for probably 15 years. But you could use anything, even just a Dutch oven, something that's oven safe. All right, let's jump right into the ingredients here. I use the Uncle Ben's converted rice. Also, I use the VH soy sauce. Don't use the reduced sodium, in my opinion. It does alter the taste. I use a pretty bland oil, not olive oil or anything. Also, a can of mushrooms along with the juice. This adds to the liquid for cooking up your rice. I don't measure out my celery. I usually chop up 2 stalks, pretty finely chopped. Also, roughly 1 cup of chicken. I had this bag in the freezer. I love using leftover chicken for this rice. It's perfect, and then you don't waste anything. And also 1 entire pack of the onion soup mix. Guys, this is everything you need for the rice. I'm telling you, it's the simplest rice. You will use it for everything. Now I'm gonna hop right into the rice. So I posted the recipe earlier if you guys wanna take a look. But basically, it's 2 cups of converted rice, 3.5 cups of water, Now for the soy sauce, it calls for 1/2 cup. I always put 1/2 cup and then another good 1/4 cup. And then you'll see later when I check it, if it doesn't look like it's darkening quickly enough for me, I usually add a few more tablespoons. It's really up to your personal preference. This is just literally 15 years of making this rice and knowing how much soy sauce I prefer. Also gonna add about a 1/4 cup of oil. And you're going to empty out an entire can of mushrooms, sliced pieces and stems, whatever you prefer, but empty the juice out with it, and 1 package of onion soup mix. Next, we're going to go ahead and slice up 2 large stalks of celery. Now go ahead and dice up roughly about a cup worth of chicken. This is just some roasted chicken that I usually keep when I have extras, and I store it in a Ziploc baggie in the freezer and pull it out for moments exactly like this. Now, that being said, I have made this rice plenty of times without the chicken, especially if I'm serving it with a chicken dish and I find it's overkill. So if you don't have the chicken, go ahead and make this rice without it. Now you can see here I'm just using this little mini roasting pan. Stir everything till it's combined, throw the lid on it. If you don't have a lid for your pan, just use aluminum foil, but you're gonna bake it at 350 for 45 minutes to an hour, stirring halfway, so 30 minutes, just to make sure everything's absorbing. And at this point, this is when I always know I need to add more soy sauce. So again, it's up to you guys. Don't go crazy because it's going to look light, but you're going to see this is what it looks like after adding, I would say I've added about 3/4 of a cup of soy sauce at this point. This is cooked. I can go ahead and set this aside. So like I said, I pre-make a lot of my meals in advance. This was done earlier in the morning so I could put it in the fridge and everyone can heat it up when they get home. Now for la pièce de la résistance, the most beautiful part about this meal are these honey garlic spare ribs. You won't even want to order from your best Chinese restaurant. after you make these. The kids agreed, Jamie agreed. They fall off the bone when you're stirring it in the pot. The meat is falling off. It's delicious. I'm telling you, this method is foolproof. Please try it. Comment down below if you did. Just to balance everything out, I'm going to go ahead and cook these egg rolls that I got in my Costco haul the other day. And of course, you guys know we wouldn't have a meal without steamed broccoli. I'm just trying to use up this frozen broccoli, guys. Don't judge me. So I'm going to go ahead and throw these in the oven. These cook at around 425 for 20 minutes or so. And I'll throw the broccoli in for about 7 minutes and everything should be done just in time. All right, I was a little bit worried about skipping Taco Tuesday, but everybody was super happy with Chinese food tonight. Oven baked rice, honey garlic spare ribs, that was supper for Tuesday night. For Wednesday night, we're having good old-fashioned comfort food, goulash. If you want to see how I make it, just keep watching. First off, I'm using our favorite pasta sauce, which is the Classico Sweet Basil Marinara, and a 28-ounce can of Italian spiced diced tomatoes. Also going to use some dried parsley, some garlic powder, some ground black pepper, some minced onion, and some organic no salt seasoning, but I'm not going to end up using that, and you'll see why in a minute. This video is full of fails, you guys. It's okay. This is real life. I'm also going to add some real onion, not just the minced. I'm going to add some green pepper. I have some left over from a previous recipe, so I'll use that up and probably a couple slices off of this one. Also going to add about 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I don't go heavy on the meat on this. I like a lot more vegetables and pasta. I did pull out this can of tomato soup just in case I felt there wasn't enough liquid, but it turned out okay. I'm going to go ahead and use a can of mushrooms. I prefer canned mushrooms in pasta sauce to fresh, but that's up to you. Also, just straight up elbow macaroni and my Dutch oven. So let's get right into it. Here's everything you need. I measured out about 2 to 2.5 cups of dry pasta. I find if I measure it out, I don't tend to overcook it as much, and I went ahead and salted my water. Now I just go ahead and heat up about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in my Dutch oven. Now when you slice up your celery, go ahead and slice it as fine or as large as you'd like. Personally, I like little bite-sized, very small bite-sized pieces. So you can see I'm slicing it up pretty thinly here. You can go ahead and set that aside in a bowl because that's going to be the last vegetable that we add because it doesn't take very long to cook it down. I'm going to go ahead and slice up this onion. Go ahead and slice it right down the middle and hang on to the root because we want to slice it up nice and fine. So this is what I found the easiest way to do it. You can learn this anywhere. Food Network, wherever you go, you will learn this chopping method. If I could give one tip for a home cook, invest in a decent chef's knife. It will make chopping up vegetables much more therapeutic. Go ahead and drop your onions right into your pot. I have this at about medium heat. I'm going to go ahead and add some pepper, and my failure of the salt is about to happen. Completely devastated. I just omitted some of the other saltier things I was going to add, and it actually turned out to be fine. The cleanup was worse. I just used my little handheld vacuum, but my heart, I was just like, that's it. I'm done. This night is done. But we carried through. We keep chopping our vegetables. We get it done, people. This is what happens when you're cooking at home. Again, same with the green peppers, as big or as fine as you like them. I kind of did them in average size little pieces. I could have done them a little bit chunkier. But if I'm being honest, I was really hoping Belle would try this. She did not. It's not her thing. She sees the vegetables and she runs in the other direction. At this point, before I add the meat, I'm going to go ahead and add the celery. Like I said, I like to leave that to the end. It doesn't need quite as much time to break down, and I like it to have a little bit of bite. 2 things I omitted at the beginning was minced garlic and tomato paste. So I added a heaping tablespoon of minced garlic and about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Let it cook off for about 3 to 5 minutes just to kind of get that taste off a little bit. Go ahead and add your ground beef and add your 28-ounce can of tomatoes, including the juice, because guys, we want this to be a little bit more liquid. I ended up only adding about 3/4 of this jar of sauce, but I added the rest at the end. I just kind of wanted to see because as you can tell, it is a very full pot. So I added my cooked pasta. I know some recipes call for you to cook it in the sauce. I prefer to do it this way. Then there's just less guessing and I don't end up with too much liquid or not enough pasta. You know what I mean. I went ahead and added a little bit of water to kind of rinse out my bottle. And guys, it made the perfect amount of liquid. Look at this goulash. We had it for 2 days. I even managed to freeze some. It was delicious. So good. This was supper for Wednesday night. All right, guys, we made it to another Friday and it's a huge storm outside, ice storm. So we are making authentic East Coast seafood chowder. If you want to see how I put this together, please keep watching. Now, the first thing I will say is you guys know I don't do dairy. So this is a lactose-free chowder and it is still amazing. Don't pass up on it because it's lactose-free, or add cream if you want. But for me, I use this. Usually you use about 4 good-sized potatoes. I usually grab a handful of small potatoes and that equals 1 for me. That's how I measure, guys. So 4 large potatoes or 4 good handfuls. I'm going to throw a couple stalks of celery in it. Again, that's optional. I do add a little bit of this better than bouillon at the very end just to kind of give it that little bit of depth. I don't even know if that's the right word. I'm going to use 1 whole onion, 1 whole carrot, and I'm also going to fry up some bacon. If you're keeping it really authentic, you're probably using salt pork fat. I didn't use that. I didn't have any. I would if I had it, but this is what was in my fridge. Ignore the expiration date on there, guys. We freeze our bacon. It just got taken out of the freezer 2 days ago. Also, if you have butter, use that, but I have margarine, so I'm using what's in my fridge. And I have about 3 to 4 cups of water here. I may not use all of it. You'll see. I always push the limits on my Dutch oven, guys. It gets way too full. Here's for the base of the soup. Now I'm going to show you the seafood that I'm going to be putting in it. Now I am using frozen, canned, or prepackaged seafood here. Just for simplicity, you guys, it's a very basic recipe. I'm using bay scallops because they're much smaller than sea scallops. And these are frozen ones. They're all frozen when they're fresh, guys. The seafood is considered fresh. Also, just a can of baby clams because I saw them at the grocery store and they were on sale. I actually ended up using 2 cans of this cocktail shrimp. They're the perfect small little size that fit on a spoon with everything else that you have in there. I did have a can of frozen lobster meat, which was $27, but this king crab flavored meat was only $2 a pack, you guys. So I grabbed 3 packs of that. I will flake it up myself and you'll see it turned out amazing. So here I am. I'm just going to go ahead and dice up all my vegetables. For the carrots and celery, I like them to be very small little diced pieces. You'll see that in a minute. And the onions as well. I know a lot of people don't necessarily put carrots in their seafood chowder. I just find that the onion, celery, and carrot kind of gives you that base that you need in any soup or stew or anything that you're cooking. It really gives it that home cooked flavor. Now you can Google probably 1 million different recipes for seafood chowder. Some have milk, some have cream, some don't have any, some are just a broth. There's so many variations. This is just the classic one that I grew up eating. This is the kind that you will get if you order it in a restaurant here in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland. That's what you're gonna get. So this is kind of what I'm making. If you want an idea of a specific recipe, I would check out Bonita's Kitchen on YouTube. She's amazing. She's from Newfoundland and she has great recipes. I've just newly discovered her site and I cannot stop watching it. I'm addicted. Real, true, home-cooked Newfoundland traditional cooking. It's amazing. Also, other websites I've noticed that are pretty good is Canadian Living has a cool one. It says it's a Nova Scotia seafood chowder. I'll leave those all linked down below just in case you want something more specific to follow, or just give this one a shot, guys. Just kind of go with your instincts. What do you like the taste of? Just go for it. So here I am chopping my onion. You guys have seen me do this before. You guys have seen this technique in one of these videos. So I'm going to speed through this process. Go ahead and just throw the onions, celery, and carrots all together because they're all going to be thrown in the pan with the oil and butter. You could do your onions separate as some people like to do. For myself, I don't think it makes a difference and they all kind of soften at the same time. Next is to chop up the potatoes. Like I said, I'm just using these. I leave the skin on. I like the texture, and this is about the size that I want. Something small enough that I can fit 2 or 3 on my spoon with the seafood and get a full bite. And I'm pretty sure that the steam from my stove is fogging up my camera. I'm sorry. All right, so just go ahead and set your potatoes aside, soak them in water so they don't get brown, and we'll move to the next step. So I'm gonna go ahead and fry up about half a pound of bacon. Like I said earlier, you could use salt pork fat if that's available in your grocery store. I was working mostly on what was available in my fridge. So this is what we have, this is what we're using. It turned out great. And my tips for cooking bacon, or I should say Jamie's tips for cooking bacon, low and slow. I cooked this on like a 4 with the lid on, took about 15-20 minutes. I barely had to check on it. Turned out perfect. Here we go. Now we're gonna get everything sauteed. So I'm gonna pour about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil into the bottom of my Dutch oven and add about 2 pads of butter or margarine, whatever you have on hand. And go ahead and chop up your bacon into just small little pieces. You could always use scissors. I have a pretty sharp knife, so it worked out okay. While I was chopping up my bacon, my oil and butter heated up, so I'm gonna go ahead and dump in the celery, carrots, and onions. Now go ahead and saute these for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, just till they start to soften on about medium-high heat. So while all of that is settling and I'm getting everything organized, I have my milk warming up very low because I don't want to lose control of this milk all over my stove, but it's going to help when you add it to your chowder so you're not adding cold milk. This is the perfect time to go ahead and season your vegetables. I'm going to go ahead and add a few pinches of salt and a few shakes of pepper and a little bit, like I said, of the dill weed. A little trick that I like to do is I don't drain my clams. I go ahead and add probably about a 1/4 cup of the juice to the vegetables while they're sauteing. So after about 5 minutes, go ahead and pour your chopped up potatoes into your Dutch oven with the vegetables and go ahead and mix them up and let them get some of that flavor before you go ahead and pour your water in. Time to add salt. Don't be shy. Potatoes can take a lot of salt. And I'm also going to go ahead and pour in my water. Like I said, I just gauge by the size of the pot. I would say I put a total of almost 4 cups of water in this. Here's something I forgot to show you. You do need to make a slurry, so equal parts flour and cold water. Go ahead and mix it up. This is what we're going to use to thicken the broth before we add the milk. So you're gonna let your potatoes and vegetables kind of sit for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes just so they start to cook a little bit. I've got all my seafood emptied out into the larger bowl. My scallops are still frozen, that's fine. I've got my warm milk kind of simmering on the side, so it's ready to go when I'm ready to go. And I'm gonna go ahead and take that king crab meat, and you'll see I can break it up with my fingers if you're noticing what I'm doing, so it flakes apart better in your seafood chowder. And then we're just gonna dump it all in and then add our milk. Oh, and of course, how could I possibly forget the bacon? So at this point, we can go ahead and add all of our seafood. I'm trying to add equal parts of everything here, and this is the point when I realize I have way more seafood than I need. So all I'm gonna do, guys, with that extra seafood is throw it in a Ziploc baggie. The scallops are still frozen, so they didn't thaw, so I'm not gonna get food poisoning, but I'm gonna throw it all in the freezer, label it just a seafood medley if I wanna make a dip, or just another smaller version of this seafood chowder. Like I mentioned earlier, I do like to add a stock or a bouillon to this, so I'm gonna go ahead and add probably about half a teaspoon of the chicken bouillon. I don't know, I just like to do it, and I know that my chowder tastes good, so you should do it too. I also added a few splashes of lemon juice. I think this helps as well with the acidity, so it's not too rich. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put a cover on this, and I let this simmer on a medium boil. Boil, make up your mind, Vanessa. Anyway, put the lid on, let it sit for about 5 minutes. Check on your milk, make sure it's not overflowing. Here I go, good old reliable me, stuffing my Dutch oven as full as I possibly can. But guys, it turned out perfect. The measurements were great. No worries. Now at this point of your chowder, you're just heating everything through till it's fork tender and you're ready to eat. I go ahead and add quite a bit more pepper because that's just how I like my soups and my stews. Other than that, it was perfect.
And I feel misunderstood 'cause I'm trying hard to love. I'm sorry, my actions, they haunt me, and I'll never live it down. I'm no good at being good, but I never.
Ignore my apparel. I'm wearing Jamie's sleep pants, his sweater. It's a cooking kind of day. It's a storm. It's an ice storm out there. But I want you guys to see that I actually love this chowder. Sometimes, you know, people post things, did they even taste them? I did. So just... I don't think you get it. So there you go, guys. And it's lactose free, so there's no dairy. It's pretty good for you. There's nothing in here that's bad. There's barely, I didn't put that much salt. You saw maybe a total of 2 tablespoons in this whole huge Dutch oven. So make it. Okay. There you have it. That wraps up this week's What's for Dinner. I'm so glad that you guys stopped by my channel this week. If you haven't already subscribed, please take a minute to do so you don't miss any more future What's for Dinner videos. And I hope you guys have a wicked awesome weekend.